approach the 2016 general election, we are going to be flooded with political ads, and they are going to come fast and furious. And one of the things that the news media like to do is to evaluate these ads. They like to make judgments that are largely seat-of-the-pants efforts to assess whether an ad's effective or not effective, whether the public's going to like it or not like it, without any evidence at all.
Every day I wake up and play a brilliant,
complex, overqualified,
get-it-done woman
who obsessively fights for justice.
who cares.
In some sense, this project is implicitly saying, look, the journalistic coverage of ads isn't really up to snuff. But at the same time, we're going to provide some real evidence and some data that they can then use in their coverage. And all journalists want to rely on evidence. And so they'll be able to say, well, look, this ad, actually makes people happy. Or this ad really turns people off. Or that this ad looks like it moves the favorabilities of Hillary Clinton a lot. Nobody thought this ad mattered, but there's something that's connecting. And then we could go further and say, well, it turns out it's among women. Or maybe it's among African Americans. We'd be able to do those kinds of things and tell a more compelling story. And because we're doing it quickly enough, it's not like we're, talking about yesterday's news. We should be able to, stay with the news cycle. So what we do is we take advantage of the internet, and we have a sample of Americans, a representative sample, who actually watch the ad. We're asking 1,000 people a week, and one quarter of them, 250, will get to see one ad. Another 250 will get to see a second ad. A third group will see no ad. They actually get to see an ad with Peyton Manning in it, because what you want to do is say, well, somebody who hasn't seen an ad, political ad that is, versus somebody who has, what's the difference there? So that provides a nice comparison. We can also compare the people who saw one ad versus the other ad. And then the final one is seeing both ads. That is, if you see both ads, how does that play out? Do they check each other? Do they in fact have some sort of interactive effect that leads to even more influence? We don't know, but we'll be able to test that. And on a given week, we could decide just to go to 3 conditions where we have, a third of the people see one ad, a third of the people see another ad, and maybe no ad at all. We have some flexibility, but what we do have is randomization. We have an experiment, because we determine randomly who of these 1,000 gets to be in these 4 groups. And that allows us to make comparisons, because the only thing that's different among these groups is in fact the ad they saw. And that allows us then to deduce the impact of the ads, because it can't be that they selected in. Because imagine if you allowed people to choose. They might choose a negative ad, or they might choose a Democratic ad, and that might reflect their own biases. So therefore you couldn't test out the effects. But by randomization, where every of those 1,000 people, everybody has the same chance of being in the same 4 samples, that allows us then to say the only difference that could be driving the differences in the results is in fact the exposure to that ad. People think negative ads work more than the feel-good ads, but we don't have a lot of evidence that supports that. But we'll be able to test that. We'll be able to compare a really negative ad versus a really positive ad and see if it moves the dials one way or another. One of the things about negativity is that people tend to view negative ads through a partisan lens. So Democrats tend not to view ads that attack Republicans as negative, and Republicans tend not to view negative ads that attack the Democrats as negative, because it's part of their team effort, so to speak. And that's something that journalists often forget. And so the public's a little bit more savvy than some people give them credit for, and we'll be able to see what how they do react. One of the things that we thought about was allow somebody who's visiting the website to do their own rating. It wouldn't necessarily be representative of like our normal sample is, but people who care and engage, they get a chance to participate, and we can measure their reactions, and they can then weigh in and give us some additional information and evidence about an ad and the reactions among readers. So it's just some additional evidence that will help make a more compelling case about what's going on in this year's campaign.